Hello, it's great to see all of you. You know, once a year I get the benefit of thanking all of you for the incredible work that you do. As you know, we pioneered a new way of doing computing called accelerated computing. And we've been working on this for now 33 years. The big idea is that if you could co-design, meaning if you understood the problems you're trying to compute for, and you develop the entire stack, meaning the algorithms, the computers, and the processors within it, that if you co-designed, you solved the problem from top down, you solved the problem from bottom up and inside out, that you could accelerate these applications, which are incredibly computing intensive, by a level that Moore's law would only dream of. Moore's law runs at about 10 times every 5 years, 100 times every 10 years. In the last 10 years, we've accelerated AI about 1 million times. 1 million times versus 100 times. 1 million times, compounded over 20 years, gives us an opportunity to maybe address some of the most incredible, most impactful challenges of humanity. That's you. And so we've been thinking about accelerated computing and this co-design idea for a very long time. Well, after some 30 years or so, each different fields of computing domains became within reach. One of the first ones was computer graphics. And somebody told me about 10 years ago that it would take 30 years for us to solve this incredibly hard problem called ray tracing for computer graphics, literally following every photon of light as it bounces around the room, eventually reaching your eyes. And using ray tracing, you could solve for really interesting computer graphics problems and create photorealistic images like this. Well, that was 10 years ago that it would take 30 years. It was the computer graphics problem that was always the future. And literally today, we ray trace every single pixel in a computer graphics program in our video games. And not only do we ray trace it incredibly beautifully, we do it at several hundred frames a second, as large of a resolution as you like. And we've taught an AI we've taught our computer how to simulate with first principle simulations, very few pixels, and then we use AI to predict the rest of it. We teach an AI what an image should look like, and it generates the image for us. It's temporal consistent, it's spatially consistent, it's incredibly beautiful. It looks even better than we compute. Well, each one of these different domains are becoming within reach. About 10 years ago, we started talking about self-driving cars. Today, I think we are at the ChatGPT moment of self-driving cars. There's no question in my mind that within the next 10 years, almost every car that gets manufactured will have, of course, either robotaxi capability, or if you like to drive yourself, you still can, but it has the ability to be a robotaxi. That future is just around the corner. Each one of these domains are within reach. Now, of course, we now have the ChatGPT moment. The last year, we've seen incredible progress in generative AI, in large language models. These ideas made it possible for us to take an AI that we thought was magical, but hallucinated a great deal. It was essentially cute and very interesting, to something that is incredibly useful. This last year, last couple of years, breakthroughs in multimodality AIs. Not only do you understand the word cat and the letter CAT, you could look at an image and hear the sound meow, and recognize all of those words, all of those information is aligned to the same place in your brain. And we can now do that with all kinds of different modalities, which is very important to you. We made huge breakthroughs in reasoning capabilities to be able to decompose through composition, break down a problem we've never seen before into routine things, and through that composition, solve problems step by step, reasoning through hard problems. The ability to do multimodality reasoning and to be grounded by different sources of information is going to be a revolution even for your industry. It is clearly a revolution in ours. The idea that we would use multimodality, sensors, very sensible. But the idea that a self-driving car stack that can think, because it can reason through and experience a situation it's never experienced before, reason through it step by step, and be able to solve that problem, navigate through it. Incredible capabilities. It expanded the operating domain of self-driving cars tremendously. It's now the case that we are very certain we don't have to test every single car across every single scenario in order for that car to do well, just like us. That we can now have a car that can think and be basically intelligent. These techniques has made, and of course, agentic capabilities, the ability for agents to reason, use tools, work with other agents, completely revolutionary. And so these breakthroughs in the day that I've been here is permeating your industry, permeating life sciences, some of the most exciting work that I've seen in a very long time. And so today, we announced a very important partnership. Before I get there, let me say a couple of things. We announced, of course, some of the work that we've done with all of you. We've brought an accelerated computing platform, but on top of that are a suite of libraries that we're very proud of. Parabricks for gene sequencing, Monai, an open source platform for medical imaging, and one of the most important ones, BioNeMo, a platform that understands geometric structures like molecules and proteins. And these platforms are used by many of you in the room, and I'm very grateful for that. The several announcements that we made, before I say that, there are so many partners here, a couple of hundred different companies here. They're pharmas, they're hospitals, they're startups. There are startups in robotics, surgical robotics. There are startups in robotics labs. There are agentic AI companies here, helping with healthcare diagnostics, and also some really cool work being done in AI scientists. You know, part of being at the JP Morgan event is large companies meeting small companies, and so many of them are doing revolutionary work. And I'm so grateful that all of you have chosen the NVIDIA platform to work on. And so our platforms ended up achieving some really great results. Monai has been downloaded some 6 million times. We achieved the Guinness World Record of gene sequencing. You know, that's cool. Yeah. I've always wanted to be in the Guinness World Record, so that's cool. The vast majority of the world's structured prediction models are built on NVIDIA today, and so I'm really proud of that. And on top of the BioNeMo platform are a whole bunch of pre-trained models. You use it for data processing, you use it for training these biological models, you use it for fine-tuning, but we also have a whole bunch of pre-trained models and a bunch of data that you can start with, and you could apply your data to fine-tune your molecules. And some of the models that we've created and participated in and jointly developed are really proud of La Proteina for protein design, ReSyn for molecular synthesis, Kermit for predicting toxicity, Evo2, a DNA foundation model. These foundation models start. Of course, we're trying to learn the representation of proteins so that we can create a foundation model for protein. But the moment that time where we're going to learn a representation and create a foundation model for cells is just around the corner. The multi-protein systems, Codon FM for RNA design. Just really terrific progress. And so today, we announced a large number of partners that are working with us in BioNeMo, and I'm very grateful for that. And we also announced a landmark partnership with one of the most important companies in the world, and a really great friend, Dave Ricks, and Lilly. And so I won't tell you more about it. I'm gonna let the two of us describe it together. But Dave, he's been the CEO of Lilly since 2017, and in the context of the history of Lilly, a 150-year-old company, he's been with the company for 30 years. So he's basically a new college grad in the context of Lilly. And I'm anxious to learn from him, how he learned so much in just a short period of time. But he's been with Lilly now 30 years, and as you know, he has helped guide and help build Lilly into one of the most valuable companies in the world, and surely one of the most important companies in the world. And so if you could, join me in welcoming my guest, David Ricks.
Thank you.
Dave.
Good to be here.
So it turns out the two of us have I can't imagine more different upbringing. So Dave was an Eagle Scout, and went to a juvenile delinquent school. Just to be clear, I was placed there as an accident. It wasn't. It was a very good school. It was very affordable. And so 2017, you became CEO.
Yes.
My question is this: what was Lilly like, and what was its vision for the future of life sciences? And then what is it like today, and your vision for the future of life sciences in the context of Lilly?
Yeah, well, so in 2017, we were almost 140 years old, or just a year older than that, and had a pretty well-established company. We had been through a difficult period of time. In our industry, and we'll get into this a little bit later, we are plagued by, as many people in the room know, these cycles of innovation that are actually longer than the reward cycles on average. So you have this peak, you're peaking and troughing, and in the troughs, of course, you either don't survive, you end up as a back end of a hyphen on another company, or you learn how to survive and you do difficult things. And I think it's true that Lilly is the only major pharma company that has not merged or combined ourselves to get through such a period. So, and we've been through a few of them. So I think we've developed a bit of a DNA for scraping by in these tough times. And one of the things that really stuck with me, I was a leader on the executive committee at the time, when we went through our last cycle with 2010, 11, 12, was how you have to be so relentless on invention, because that time cycle is brutal. When you have a patent cliff and you have nothing to replace it, you have to rescale your whole company. And imagine doing this every 10 or 15 years. It's impossible to get momentum. People leave, you lose inherent knowledge, et cetera. So we set about to do that. And I think that problem can be attacked two ways. One, you can say, okay, we'll just have better ideas. But as you may know, that's difficult to sustain. Even if you have a good idea, everyone thinks you're smart. They think about Lilly now, but it's hard to sustain. So we of course worked on that, more invention, but the more important thing we did was speed up invention. So we systematically took apart the R&D process, literally, like every step, and there's hundreds of steps from candidate selection to first approval, and we squished the time. And so still today, probably Lilly is about 40% faster than the next scaled pharma company on average across all therapeutic areas. And so we can invent things inside the patent cycle.
Yeah.
Then you can start to grow.
Yeah.
So I think that was a notion in 2017, which we've actualized. Along the way then, of course, we did a lot of things to drive more invention. We were lucky enough to be early on an idea called GLP-1 in 2006. We launched the first one in the world.
Never heard of it.
We fiddled around with it.
Is it doing well?
If it weren't for you, it would be the most important idea in the stock market. Yeah, but
Never heard of it.
Pretty good idea for mankind, and we fiddled around with it for like 12 years. And to their credit,
sounds like a chip.
Yeah.
GLP-1.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
GLP-1. Is there a 2 coming?
There's a 3 coming. So there is a GLP-2. That's actually a real protein.
Is it really? Okay.
It's a protein. It sort of does the opposite, but
All right, don't want that.
what we've done is
want that.
combined 2 hormones.
Very
like
small
this.
market, I got to tell you.
That's right.
Very
That's right.
small
Yeah.
Extremely small. I don't know healthcare, but I'm
We're
guessing.
kind of on GLP-2 now because terzepatide's 2 proteins fused together, and that's a technology we've developed too. And there's a triple acting one coming next year, 27. So that'll be pretty interesting. But anyway, we caught that wave. Our competitor innovated into obesity. We chased and executed, I think, quite well to become the market leader last year. So we not only now have an engine that's faster, we have a tremendous success cycle with this one idea. The challenge before us now is like, how do we find another success cycle before that one runs out? Hopefully a lot sooner than it runs out, and sort of get exit velocity, which really no major company in our industry has had. They've just had these cycles. So that's the goal.
You said something earlier, and I have several of my employees here, and they hear me say this all the time. The fundamental purpose of the CEO is to create the conditions by which, not our job isn't to create ideas. Our job is to create the conditions by which great ideas can systematically, arise. And what you just described is essentially, Lilly with the wisdom that you have to create the conditions by which these great inventions can happen. One of the, we've spoken before about the early days of NVIDIA getting into AI, and I would say that without exception, probably the single most important thing that we did was investing in the infrastructure, the creating the conditions by which amazing AI researchers can come to our company and great inventions could arise. Right. Today, we're quite silent about this, but people are increasingly discovering that over the course of the last 10 years, one of the best decisions that I made in the beginning was and at the time we couldn't afford it, but nonetheless, I built one of the largest supercomputers in the world for NVIDIA to use. And at the time, I had nobody to use it, but because NVIDIA had very few AI researchers at the time. But the problem is, if you don't have AI researchers, and therefore you don't have the instrument, if you don't have the instrument, you'll never have the AI researchers, because scientists need the instrument necessary for their science. If you want to attract the world's greatest particle physicists, if you don't have a collider, a large hadron collider, you're going to have a very hard time doing that work. And so I came to the conclusion that the right answer is to create the conditions for great AI work to be done. And I built that supercomputer, and we attracted some amazing people. And today, we do frontier work in physical AI and biological AI and robotics AI, and the work that we do in self-driving cars is revolutionary. And so which led our conversation to that AI is starting to make enough progress that we might be able to apply it to tackle some of the most extraordinary challenges of humanity, which is biology.
Yes.
And the two of us thought it'd be amazing if we have the largest computer company in the world and computer science company in the world partner with the world's largest life science company. And it's as if we created this lab where we are essentially one company, combining all of the best amazing things together, which led us to our announcement today.
Yeah.
And so
exciting.
Today we announced.
Yeah. And as you know, so there's like 4 parts to this. We bought a bunch of chips, and we're building, I think it'll be finished this week actually, the largest dedicated on-prem biology supercomputer in the world. That'll be in Indianapolis, which is the world center for biologic discovery, by the way.
I was going to say earlier, because of the selection of the headquarters of Lilly, it is exactly the reason why it has never merged with anyone.
Maybe so. That could be true. That could be true. There's a lot of artifacts with that. I think that seriously, there's something to, like, if you manage to make it all the way to
Everybody
Indianapolis,
knows what I mean.
Yeah. If you manage to make it all the way to Indianapolis,
we don't want that.
And you're a discovery chemist or biologist, you really aren't going to leave, right? I mean, you made it all that way. You're going to stay. So we have great retention. Anyway, we're building this huge, so we have massive compute.
Dave's invited me to visit him many times.
Yeah, he's never.
And
actually, you did come in 2018. I don't know if you remember that.
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Actually, just a sidebar. Like, that was the first time we met, and you gave a talk to our management team, a room about this size, about AI in 2018.
Yeah.
And I guess I was lucky enough to.
100% of the audience, I could see it in their eyes. Nonsense.
Yeah. Honestly, it blew my mind. What you said blew my mind to the point where I spent several months like reading about some of these things, which sounded like science fiction.
Yeah.
And now it's fact.
Yeah.
It's incredible what you've built. And it's great to partner with NVIDIA on this. So supercompute, we're going to put together a research team here in the Bay Area. Yeah. So if there's any smart scientists or computer scientists who want to work at this center, it'll be a joint Lilly NVIDIA AI lab. We're going to develop new data, because anyone who knows about this problem we have is you can train models, but if the data is an inch thin, you don't get very far.
That's right.
And biology is largely unknown. So we need to create massive experimentation for the purpose of training machines. And then we need to build on the work that NVIDIA's done with the models you've created to ladder up to even more sophisticated predictions.
That's right.
So super exciting announcement.
And so, one of the important things to understand about AI is it's easy to think about it as a multi-layer cake. I mean, at the lowest level, you need some energy for these computers. And then, of course, you have the chips in the computers. You have the infrastructure layer. That infrastructure layer is about, how do you cause this computer? It's kind of like the operating system of AI. How do you cause this computer to learn, process the data, learn? How do you guardrail it? How do you fine-tune it? How do you teach it? And so that layer is kind of like the HR department of AI. It's like
Only they tell better jokes.
Exactly. And so exactly. Yeah. And so that's the infrastructure layer, and then the layer above that is the models.
Yeah.
And the layer above that are the domain specific data and flywheel. And one of the areas that's really exciting is the idea that we would be able to train models, synthesize proteins or chemicals, go put it into a robotics lab, collect more data, take that data back into our model, and this flywheel of data generation or model protein generation using AI, collecting ground truth, experimentation, and then putting that scientific flywheel on steroids. That future is just incredibly exciting, and so we're systematically bringing together some of the brightest minds in the field, in the domain expertise of drug discovery, and some of the brightest minds in computer science, and together, between the two of us in our co-innovation lab, we'll have essentially every layer of that cake, and put together, hopefully a blueprint for what is possible in the future of drug discovery. I was going to tell you this. I was going to tell you earlier. I was going to tell you the story. 40 years ago. So I guess 43 years ago. I was the first generation of engineers where the concept of computer-aided design was invented. Before my generation, my manager that generation of engineers, they would design a chip, and it would be a hit, but they would go several years without another hit, and they would design another chip, and then it would be a hit, and then it would go several years without a hit.
Industry works now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly, and our generation came along, and we were able to represent the transistor, the logical gates, the functionality. We learned the representation and described it in software. Yeah. We did 43 years ago. Finally, a computer could represent your domain
and accurately simulate its behavior.
That's right. Yeah. To do as much in situ, in silicon as possible. To do as much in silico as possible. And so today we design massive chips. 15,000 people come together to design a computer system, and we just taped out Vera Rubin. Billions of dollars of R&D goes into it. The computer, when it's done, is 3 tons, 1.5 million parts, and 6 brand new chips, 220 trillion transistors. I mean, it's gigantic systems. 15,000 people coming together, and that computer is going to work first time. It does exactly what we expected, and every single generation we build upon the last generation. Every single generation we build upon the last generation. I think your time has come for that.
Yeah.
Finally, the computer, 1,000,000 times, a quadrillion times of computing power later, I think finally we might be able to represent one of the hardest problems in the world, which is the human biology. And I'm really hoping that your industry moves from drug discovery, which is kind of like wandering around the forest looking for truffles.
Which literally, sidebar, we used to have a department of soil discovery. Seriously, where we would send people into tropical forests and scoop up soils and bring them back to Indianapolis and refine out what became antibiotics. In fact, the most important antibiotic in the world still is vancomycin. It's the last resort antibiotic in the hospital. We couldn't run hospitals without it. Was discovered in Borneo in a soil sample by Lilly.
Now, how did they know to go there?
They would just go to, because fungus produce as tools to fight bacteria, and so they dig in the soil and discover these naturally occurring defense mechanisms, refine them into drugs. But that is true drug discovery when you think about it, right? That's like, you could get malaria doing that job. That was in the 50s. That was, 70 years ago.
Well, see, now your job gets to be just like my job. You never have to leave your office.
There we go, do it all in silico,
Yeah, so I think that's what really excites me, the concept that we could have computer-aided drug design. And that this is going to be, of course, the science behind it is going to be incredible. It's incredibly complex. The human biology is incredibly complex. And it's going to be still a decade yet. But I really think that this announcement between us, could be a blueprint.
Start of something.
Start of something.
I hope you're right. I mean, we need it, right? I think if we think of all the unmet needs left, at a conference at JP Morgan, you're reminded of like the incredible pipeline of the industry. But most of that is sort of like chipped out of stone. It's like hard work. And especially, occasionally we can harness systems like when monoclonal antibodies came around. We basically hijacked like biology's way of making solutions to infections and other things. But mostly what we do is like really empirical and like chipping away and very difficult. Each small molecule discovery is like a work of art. There's only one of them, and one brushstroke and it's wrong. If we can make that an engineering problem versus this sort of discovery and artisanal drug making problem, think of the impact on human life.
The first chips that I worked on, my first generation of computers, were quite empirical. There are some rules that we used, and we apply some intuition. We have no clue how it's going to perform. We know that it's going to perform better than the last one we built because we made mistakes, and so we could at least correct those mistakes, and we'll have more transistors and more everything, so it's going to do better. However, the functionality of it is unknown. Its full functionality unknown. Its performance completely estimated. Today, we know the functionality of the systems we created down to every single bit. The performance we could measure, we simulate everything, and so we know exactly what we're going to produce. I really believe that could revolutionize the future.
It would,
the
if
life
we can make
sciences
that come true, even for a part of human biology.
That's right. And so tell me, GLP-1, you were saying that it's really in its third phase.
Already.
And where does it go from here? What happens? What other things can you use it for? How could it change everything?
Well, I think as it turns out, obesity is like a key linchpin driver of chronic disease in adults. And like a lot of things in evolution, most of the ailments of today weren't concerns in our evolutionary past, but we evolve much slower than our environment is, and so we're maladapted to the modern world. And obesity is one of those things. We grew up in a world of scarcity. Sounds like you grew up in a world of scarcity, but most people here didn't. Ourselves, our ancestors did. And so
that's behind me.
There was no.
I don't want you guys to get the wrong impression.
There was no need for an off switch on hunger.
The word is abundance now.
Abundance,
Yeah,
yes.
yes.
And we live in a world of caloric.
Abundance of intelligence, abundance of productivity, abundance of those kind of things.
And
I don't know what you were thinking about, but my life is surrounded by abundance.
But unfortunately, we're all in caloric abundance now. And there was no need for us to wire in an off switch evolutionarily. So that's why we have obesity, and that leads to many, many chronic diseases that ail people and probably shorten life. I think by having a pretty effective set of tools, going to get more effective, and I'll get back to that in a second, to really help people manage that, to create an off switch synthetically in a way, we can downregulate a lot of diseases, over 200 chronic diseases.
No kidding.
So the two big evolutions that are going to happen in the next 24 months are real progress on more choices. So GLP-1 is one peptide, but it's in a family. And by combining two in tirzepatide, GIP plus GLP, we see we can get better performance and better tolerability. I think you'd expect more of that kind of thing in the future. So within this superfamily of proteins, we can harness their combined strengths to really have much more tolerable drugs that are even more effective. Effective in the maintenance phase, effective in inducing weight loss, different patient characteristics. That's coming, and as I said, our triple
And just reducing weight loss has so many
downstream
benefits.
And that's the second thing, which is use cases. So we know you lose weight. If you take our Zepbound today, you'll lose 23% of your body weight on average. But what we're starting to uncover is a series of obvious things like reduced heart attack and other metabolic systems that improve. Diabetes, pre-diabetes, conversion to diabetes drops by 93%. Imagine if we treated the country where we have 70 million people with pre-diabetes with Zepbound, we literally would have 93% less diabetes in our country. That's a profound finding, and hopefully with the government access deal we signed with the Trump administration, we'll be able to do something like that. But there's many now non-obvious, I think, use cases, or less obvious. Inflammation being a primary one. So being obese causes excess inflammation, not acutely, like in response to an event, but chronically, and that's not good for you. It's not good for your cardiovascular system. It's not good for your joints. And so spontaneously in our trials, early on, people would report, gosh, I've lost weight, but actually, like, I can stand up from a sitting position for the first time in 10 years. My knees don't ache as much. My back feels better. Or some people with Crohn's and colitis reported kind of resolution of their symptoms. So why is this happening? It's because we're sort of taking down that chronic inflammation at a system level. So we're doing a bunch of studies. The first one read out last month on top of medicine for psoriatic arthritis, a kind of arthritis, and it boosted the effect of that medicine by about 50% to co-prescribe Zepbound with it. So we're going to take that on medically, because that's how the medical system adopts innovations. They need the use cases, maybe similar to adopting AI technology. You need to prove the value in a particular setting. And then we're also starting a number of brain health studies right now, and we have a special purposed GLP-1 GIP for brain conditions, particularly addiction, which is really a major modern problem. And it turns out that for similar reasons that these medicines downregulate your appetite, which is, it turns out, not really driven by our need for more calories, but driven by other self-learned behavior loops. Sounds like AI more and more, doesn't it? That it can do the same thing or a similar thing for other harmful self-learned behavior loops, like gambling, like alcohol consumption, smoking cessation. So we're exploring all of these as well, which are, including, we're going to take on.
I hope it doesn't affect working too hard.
No.
Okay.
It's only the adverse ones we're trying to edit out. Yeah. It's only the adverse ones. But it's a common pattern with over food consumption, actually.
Okay.
And there's a parallel for that.
That's just a comment for all the startup CEOs.
Yeah, yeah.
We've got a lot of startup CEOs in the room here. Be careful. If you find your willpower is starting to diminish,
Stop microdosing.
Stop microdosing.
Yeah. So anyway, that's very
That's
exciting.
so interesting.
Yeah. And then, I think on the horizon, people are working on much longer acting, so you can take these less frequently. Of course, we'll launch our oral GLP-1 this spring, which I think is a major breakthrough, not just for convenience, but actually global reach. It looks simple, our medicine in an auto-injector, but it's actually one of the most complicated drugs marketed in the world from a manufacturing perspective. And we have to do it times hundreds of millions based on the current demand. We just launched in China and India and in Southeast Asia. There's a lot of obesity there. We cannot possibly meet all that demand with just injectable systems. So we need to get to
Southeast Asia, really serious diabetes.
huge problem. Yeah. And Southeast Asians sort of lost the genetic lottery of obesity because they're much at lower body weights. Small gains in small increases in the amount of obesity trigger more diseases. So they need to use something to mitigate obesity. Hopefully diet and exercise. If not, they can use our medication. But we have to make enough, and having an oral form that's a chemistry, it's not relying on protein synthesis and then putting it in these sterile injectable systems, just an oral pill. We can scale that massively. So that will launch this year as well. So huge.
This
huge
one
excitement
idea,
ahead.
you're going to ride this for another 50 years.
Right. We're hoping to. We're learning from you.
My gosh. That's hang on a second. I'm convinced. GLP-1, it's the second best technology.
That's right, exactly. Yeah. Ours is not universal.
Blackwell is number one. GLP-1, number two.
Ours is not universal to the entire economy, just to the human economy.
That's incredible.
So, very exciting.
Yeah.
And one challenge we have is like, can we keep inventing things that are better and better enough that people will pay for them to improve beyond the patent cycle?
But has there ever been a drug? Has there ever been a life sciences technology that has benefited so broadly humanity?
The ones,
I guess,
the only other, I'd say it's a
penicillin?
class of drugs, and the only class that did something like this I alluded to earlier, which is antibiotics. The discovery of penicillin invented modern medicine. If we subtracted antibiotics from our lives, we couldn't have modern dentistry.
Yeah, right.
We couldn't have surgeries. We couldn't do so now we take that all for granted. But when Fleming just self-dosed this weird mold he grew in his lab, that was the start of like a major wave, and that lasted into the 90s. So that was a 60-year cycle with 100+ new medicines. I think this could be like that, which would be profound. But this is not for an acute infection; it's for chronic disease of the modern Homo sapien. That's what we're affecting.
Well, Dave, did you ever realize that you were going to have such an easy job?
My wife asked me that a few times. Like, why aren't you working
One
harder?
incredible discovery. You were just running around the forest and you discovered this thing called GLP-1.
Yeah.
That's what I've imagined. You're digging up stuff and you found this incredible truffle, and it's solid for 60 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, what's the history of this? So
It's incredible.
It goes to the 70s, and German scientists discovered this thing called the incretin effect, and we call these GLP-1s part of this incretin family. These are hormones excreted by our gut, which signal the rest of the body that you're fed. And we overboost those, and that's what is happening. But he observed that if you give sugar orally versus intravenously, you get a very different insulin response. Insulin's like the opposite. It stimulates absorption of sugar. It was slower if you give it orally. And so that's what's called the incretin effect, which was the first insight that somehow your body's doing something different when the gut is involved than when it's not. And that then led in the 80s to the discovery of actually GIP first, then GLP. Those are the two parts of Zepbound. And later a whole nother set of hormones. But one of the things I hope we can crack with our supercomputer and our team is here we had targets, but really difficult to drug. The half-life of the native human form of GLP is like 7 minutes. So to give that as a medicine, the native peptide sequence, which was identified in the 90s, you'd have to like walk around with an infusion all day and all night. So that doesn't make for a product. It wasn't until we figured out how to extend that life, first to twice a day and then to once a week, and now people are working on monthly and even beyond, that we could make that a effective product. So one thing in AI drug discovery that is really working is this ability to create massive combination possibilities and then test those in silico and filter out good ideas. We're doing that at scale now. We can do that at an even bigger scale with our collaboration. The other side is discovering, so that's the key, discovering the lock. Can we find more biology targets using AI? And that is really the holy grail, because if we put those two things together, then we can model the whole system at once. Could be super exciting.
Yeah, one of the things that Dave really wanted to do was to put the AI lab, the co-innovation lab here in Silicon Valley, and even close right here in AI City. You know, San Francisco is really epicenter of a lot of AI researchers, and we have an office here, and so this is going to be either in South San Francisco,
which is really the biotech hub of the Bay Area, or we can do it up here.
That's right.
We want to go where people want to live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, San Francisco is pretty cool.
It's cool. Yeah. It's cool. Indianapolis is cool as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard from just one person. From one other person.
We're very adaptive. You know, we used to be good at basketball, but now we're good at football. And so so we used to be good at chemistry, but now we can be good at AI.
Well, you're just good at suffering.
Yeah, we're good at something.
Yeah,
that's true.
Yeah.
Better than the alternative.
Yeah, it's incredible. And so GLP-1 beyond. You know, one of the things that a fair amount of Silicon Valley is talking about longevity and
aging. Yeah.
The absence of.
Yeah.
Subtracting aging. Yeah. And so tell me, what is the technology behind that? Is it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's an interesting topic. Obviously, it's attractive to a lot of people, because who wants to get old?
Sometimes I just want it to be over.
There are a number of Yeah, I get that too. Yeah. There's a lot of biology on why individual cells expire, and you can extrapolate that to cell systems and then organs and then potentially the whole organism. But as we were talking off stage, that is not really a problem we work on that way. So that idea is essentially, can we extend the maximum shelf life of a human to something beyond what that is under perfect conditions? So let's just say under perfect conditions, we can live up to 100 years. And then for maybe good reasons, the system's shut down, right? I think it would be a weird world if people live forever, you know? Why would we reproduce? How do we evolve?
Yeah, right.
Like there's a lot of problems with that, kind of even
philosophically. How does nature fix that original design?
Yeah, even philosophically though, like then, we would have a very weird world, I think. But I understand why people pursue it. We're more focused on a more practical problem, which is if the maximum shelf life is 100 years, how do we get more people a better shot to get that full life? And the way we do that is by knocking out disease. So the reason people perished, if you look at life expectancy in our country in 1900, it was like 46 years old for a male. And the biggest factor there was child death. So you lost life because you died when you were young at a pretty high rate from infection mostly. And by having antibiotics and vaccination and other tools to manage childhood disease, that quickly shot up. From 1960 till now, we've added about 10 years of life expectancy, mostly through chronic disease extension. Cancer care has improved dramatically. Most companies in this room have had a big role in those chronic disease management. HIV, AIDS, and other new pathogens have been conquered. And that's, now we're up to almost 80 years in our country. Actually, the number would be more like 84 if it weren't for opioids and traffic deaths, which is exceptionally high in the United States, both of those. So self-driving cars can help with one of those. Maybe GLP-1s will help with the other, because we're studying opioid addiction actually as a solution there. But we chip away at it this way. And of course, as people live longer, the incidence of new maladies of aging rise. So the next frontier for us beyond GLP that I'm really excited about and interested in is dementia and diseases of the aging brain. Because the rest of our bodies are able to carry us into the 80s and 90s, this is something we haven't really figured out how to address, and for quality of life, but also quantity of life. That's going to be an important frontier. We're spending a lot of effort in that area. We've got some exciting programs running now in studies, but I think through drug discovery, that's simulating brain tissue and how to look for new targets and the interaction between targets we don't understand. There's inflammation plus protein misfolding happening in the brain, the aging brain. Perhaps we can discover something really exciting and new.
And so if you take a step back and look at looking at our co-innovation lab, the first thing that we have to do is we have to set up the computing platform for the researchers to do work. And so we have the computers, we have the infrastructure layer, and we have BioNeMo, and we have a whole bunch of models and model architectures we've already invented, and we'll get our scientists together, and they can start collaborating in that particular area, just building the foundations. But if you had a wish list for the researchers, I know that and certainly it is the case with me, I try to influence the researchers.
The direction of it.
But I try not to be directive.
Yeah.
And obviously the reason for that is because we don't know what we don't know, and we don't know what can be discovered, and there are many things that are discovered that, quite frankly, we didn't even know was possible. But once it's created, our innovation brain could kick in and together try to figure out how to bring that to the market. But if you had a direction that you would like to set them on, in what direction would you hope that they do some research?
Yeah, I think there's like two basic problems, and I think within these we'd have to narrow the scope to make progress and feel achievement. The first one, there's a lot of momentum in our space already, which is what I talked about, the drug design, engineered drug design, which, you could argue a lot of drugs these days you fall into that category. You know the target because it's been around and well profiled, and you're better customizing kind of the key to the lock. But there are new modalities that have emerged, RNA, gene therapies, et cetera, that really haven't been optimized because they haven't been around as long. So I think that whole suite of problems around drug engineering and drug optimization is pretty tractable. And I think the NVIDIA scientists, coupled with ours, could make a lot of progress pretty quickly there. That solution, by the way, would be highly amenable to our TuneLab kind of interface we've built for all of our biotech partners as well. Better drug making through in silico design, engineered
and just so you guys
peptides
know,
and
there's
chemistry.
anybody who doesn't know about TuneLab, this is a platform where Lilly and startups or third parties could work together to both contributing data to advance a particular space. And it's built on top of a platform that is called federated learning. It's called MVFlare that we contributed to, so that developers and researchers don't have to aggregate all of your data, commingle your data, but you could still train a model together so that you can benefit together. The thing that's really, since our announcement, all day long, the number of startups have been really excited about TuneLabs and co-innovation and how they could be involved, and it's just coming out of the woodworks. And so I think the vision you have for TuneLabs and the work that you did in building up TuneLabs is completely visionary, and it makes possible for collaboration of AI researchers that are not in the same company, and it's very hard to commingle data.
Protecting the intellectual property, but the process of improving their idea improves the training of the model itself. So we all gain by participation. There's no fees. We do curate it, so there's legitimate biotech projects, but we will add the product of our work together to the TuneLab interface, and so not just Lilly scientists can benefit, many biotech scientists. The other side of the equation, of course, is target. And here I think we need our robotics effort to really kick in. Why do we have more targets, and why do we understand the targets that we have better, which are probably structurally more complicated than we understand, and that's one of the reasons drug development fails, is we think we have the target, but we don't really understand it. And that's because we need massively more amounts of experimental data on specific good targets. So I think here we'll work with you on fleshing out. We already have one robotic lab running, wet lab, but we'll build more. And we can have them running 24/7, experimenting around a target space to really fully profile that, and then couple that with those engineered drug designs. So that's a little bit harder problem. It's more empirical, but I think machines are made to work day and night to solve this problem.
And that flywheel is gonna fly. I think that, you know, Dave, if you look at some of the advances that we've had in other domains, the first thing is you need the flywheel to eventually land at ground truth. So you have to have physical world experimentation, collect that data, and you close the loop that way. Eventually, that model becomes sufficiently good. That foundation model becomes sufficiently good, and you could teach it how to generate, be generative. And eventually, there's a model that is being tested against another model. And this other model is the world model, or the target model. And the target model, along with the model that you're training, runs in a closed loop. So essentially, the lab is another model. And so you eventually have to ground it again by producing and synthesizing the proteins and collecting real data. But we get ourselves in a synthetic data flywheel. And that synthetic data flywheel is incredibly effective.
I don't think that's been attempted in our industry and at scale, and I think we'll do that here. But I think really taking a handful of targets which we highly suspect will be useful in key diseases, and really doing the full sort of profiling of those in robotic wet labs to train the data set, and then use the machines to fill in the space, make better drugs because we understand.
This is so exciting. I think it's singularly true that finally we're going to have a lab where the expertise and the scale of that lab is going to be sufficient to attract people who really want to do their life's work in that intersection.
Yeah, we'll be so excited.
So I'm super excited about that. And so one of the things that is really cool about this conference is large companies and small companies getting together. This year, AI scientists, there's a company I met today, we've been working with them for some time. I hope they don't mind that I mention their name. Edison is really terrific. A foundation model company who is going to build both the life sciences lab as well as the AI lab, or the factory, a real robotics factory and a large-scale system, Lila, are incredible companies. They're probably in the audience. What are some of the companies that you've seen? So robotics labs companies, AI scientist companies, of course, agentic healthcare assistants, the work that Abridge is doing and Open Evidence is doing, really, really cool work that's being done there. What are some of the areas that you've seen that are really cool?
Yeah, I mean, I think for AI, the most tractable problem now that you're seeing more and more on is healthcare service. So this is not as complicated as what we're talking about here today, but rather how do you replace human level service with agentic service, AI service? And it seems so obvious for what is like the least productive part of the entire economy to adopt AI, but there are a lot of frictions for that. So a lot of our discussions are, well, how can we collaborate? You know, we run, I think it's probably the largest direct pharmacy platform in the country, Lilly Direct. It's only a year old, but it's annualizing close to $1 billion a quarter right now, $4 billion a year, just selling pharmacy. So people want to say, well, can Lilly work with us to kind of use your market weight to force adoption and sort of work against, let's be honest, insurance companies, they're not into change. And physician groups are frightened by some of these technologies, but we really do need to make the U.S. healthcare system more efficient. And in doing so, we can actually have more room for innovation, more room for adoption of cutting edge medicines, and maybe more accurate and comprehensive workup of people. So that seems inevitable, but what can we do to speed that up and really harness that? There's a lot of new modalities, as I was mentioning earlier, to drug targets. And really in the last 10 years, without AI in the run rate, I think the productivity of the industry on new modalities is accelerating. And that's exciting. And yet it's early days. So a lot of companies are combining new and old modalities into bifunctional medicines. That's a whole hot field where you have a targeting part and then a warhead part, say to kill cancer cells. And even just refining how we get these medicines to the right tissue is an important problem. And there's a lot of interesting new approaches, different approaches happening that I took meetings on today that was pretty interesting to me. So that's the drug making side. And I think here again, AI can help us accelerate that, but a lot of smart people working on those problems. Yeah, and of course, a lot of people want to talk about GLP-1s. That's my life. Yeah, yeah. But it was good you said like small companies and big companies getting together. So here, like we're the small company and you're the big company.
Yeah, cut it out.
And we're getting together, yeah.
Cut it out,
yeah.
Cut it out.
But I was gonna say like, you know, probably Lilly has a reputation 10 years ago when I started, you were asking about 2017, of like a little bit of a sleepy Midwestern company. But here's a like fun facts for the computer people. I think the first, you may not know, but the first approved biotech product made by a living organism, a medicine made sort of in the most modern way, was a Lilly product, Humulin, which we collaborated with Genentech on. Okay. And then 12 years later, we bought the first supercomputer in the pharmaceutical industry and put it in Indianapolis. It was a Cray supercomputer. It was called Big Red. Our company logo is red.
Yeah, Big Red.
Very clever. Yeah. And we designed the first approved medicine designed on a computer on that thing. It's called Insulin Lispro, which is Humalog. It's still used by type 1 diabetics and type 2 diabetics globally today by playing around with amino acid sequences empirically and
David
solving
was
those
always
problems.
trying to convince me that Lilly's cool.
We are cool. We are cool.
You know?
We are cool. And we've been working with computers and the cutting edge of science and computer technology.
You had me at hello.
Yeah.
I was
So anyway,
convinced at hello.
This just makes tons of sense because it's a natural evolution of our company. Yeah. So awesome. Yeah.
It is so awesome to work with you and your team. And I am so excited about the work that we're about to do together. I think that I can't imagine a more worthy, a more complex, more exciting field to go applied computer science to. And for someone who's dedicated a whole career in basically one job, building computers, the opportunity to work with you and Lilly and the scientists there in service of the next breakthrough, it can't be more exciting. And so I want to thank you for your partnership and for personally driving this. And the two of us, teaming up together, pulling together the mites of our two company, hopefully we could go bend the arc of history and see if we can make a difference. I'm super excited.
Yeah, so exciting to hear you say that. Thank you for helping make this come together. We're just getting started, but this could be a new day.
Yeah.
And if we can accelerate progress, even if we set modest goals, I think we can accelerate progress in a use case for computer technology that has to be the most personal and impactful for our country and for the world, and for an industry that really needs to find more ways to be more productive with R&D dollars. So it's a worthy try, but we're going to do more.
We're going to make it happen. We're going to make it happen. Ladies and gentlemen, David Ricks, and the second most, I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Thank you. Great, yeah. Thank you. Fun. That was fun to do. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it.